During a family dinner, my stepmother casually accused me of forcing myself on her, and my family kicked me out of the house that very night. 7 years later, my dad divorced her after catching her cheating, and now they won't stop blowing up my phone. Hello, everyone. My biological parents split up when I was 9. I'm male, and my parents got equal custody of me. I would stay with my mom for 5 days a week since she lived near my school, and my weekends were spent with my dad. Despite their divorce, my parents have always been kind and gentle to me. Although I was unhappy that my parents were not together, I also understood that they loved me regardless of their relationship with each other. A couple of years later, my dad met my stepmother Gina. When my dad first introduced my stepmom to me, I was 11 years old. She seemed really nice to me, and my dad looked so happy that we met, hoping for us to get along. So she had twins, Emma and Emily, who were both 14 years old at that time and had basically only been raised by her since her father had been absent from the time of their birth. This is why the girls were quite immature for their age and would throw tantrums publicly if Gina and my dad didn't buy them what they wanted or if things wouldn't go their way. I was an introvert and completely opposite to them, so I would sit silently and watch them embarrass themselves. After a year of dating, they decided to get married when I was 12, and even my mom attended their wedding. I was so happy that I had a new member in our family who would also be there for me. I thought me and my stepmother were getting along until I think a few months after their honeymoon. She told me while we were alone one morning that she didn't really like me, and that we just needed to pretend to like each other for my dad when he was around. She continued to tell me that whenever my dad was not there, I should not bother her since she hated seeing my face, which reminded her so much of my mom. My tiny heart broke hearing her cruel words. I did not expect her to say something like that. I genuinely liked her and thought that our relationship was going to be okay, but alas, she did not see me that way. The twins, of course, heard her say this, and they would later tease me about how I didn't have a dad and how my dad loved them more than me. I remember crying and telling Mom about this, who immediately called up my dad and gave him a hearing. My dad assured her that there was no way that stepmom would have said something like that to me and that I might have misheard her. The next weekend when I came to meet my father, my stepmother seemed pissed. She didn't say a word in front of my dad, but as soon as he had left, she furiously whispered to me about how she was going to make sure that I would not have a dad left in my life if I ever told my mom anything about her. She also threatened me that she would divorce my dad and take away all his money. So if I didn't want to see my dad living on the streets, then I should keep my mouth shut. I was just 12 years old, and I was frightened for my dad, so I just nodded my head in agreement. From that day forward, Gina made it her personal mission to make my life hell in every way possible. And because I was a child, I thought I would have to take it with my mouth shut. Whenever it was just me and stepmother, she would say things to get to me and I would just not say anything, hoping and praying that she would stop bullying me. She would talk about my height, my weight, and would say how ugly I was. I hoped my dad would notice, but he never did. In fact, he thought Gina and I had a good relationship and would force me to go shopping, eating with her and the kids. She would take my dad's car to pay for our meals, yet she would not let me eat anything in the restaurant. I was only ever allowed to have soup or dessert, but no main course. I would sit miserably watching them finish off the main course while crying quietly.